I'm so happy to hear that people who are concerned about their constitutional rights are stepping up, and I really commend that. I think that's what we need to do. And this is a sensitive topic, but I think it's time that Canada is ready to have a mature conversation about abortion. One of the programs that we run is to take literature in a petition to end pain-capable abortions. We go door to door with images that are not graphic, that just show a beautiful image of the preborn that we're trying to discuss and start a conversation. Because the government, the example we have here is just to restrict it. And we are, a lot of Canadians want a conversation.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News. You will very likely recall that the City of Calgary recently passed a bylaw severely limiting the capacity for pro-life groups to distribute their literature, particularly if that literature contains graphic images. Well, not wanting to be outdone, the town of Strathmore has passed a bylaw of its own, and some of the language in the bylaw is troubling, if not outright comedic. Make no mistake about it, there's nothing comedic about politicians stifling free speech, but it's when we look at the language of the bylaw that one can't help but laugh. You see, the image ban at face value does set out to ban the distribution of graphic images, but it's the definitions in this bylaw that become problematic. The town of Strathmore has defined graphic images as any image whatsoever containing a developing unborn fetus. So you can have technically a ultrasound of your baby that you drop off on grandma's doorstep, and by this bylaw, technically, I suppose that would be a violation of the bylaw. But it gets worse. When we go further into the bylaw, you can look at the definition of fetus, and they have defined a fetus as any developing unborn mammal. So ladies and gentlemen, in the town of Strathmore, dropping off an ultrasound of, say, a dolphin or some cute kittens on someone's doorstep, well, that action is unbelievably now illegal. I was very fortunate to be joined by Stephanie Fennelly, the executive director of the Wilberforce Project, a group that does political activism on the issue of abortion here within Alberta, to discuss this law further. Well, thanks for joining me, Stephanie. I guess my first question for you is, what sort of prompted and kick-started Strathmore bringing in this troubling new bylaw?
Well, as we understand it, there's been some concerns about graphic abortion victim photography being circulated, and we suspect that that's what they were trying to regulate on this bylaw, but unfortunately their gross incompetence and negligence to seek public input or legal advice, they have resulted in banning images all the way up to ultrasound images of bunnies. Yeah, it's very bizarre. Now, have they made clear their intentions behind this law? Was there literature being distributed in advance that's concerning or graphic, or is this a pressure from within the community? Is there someone woke on the sort of city council? What prompted this? That's a good question. As far as we know, this might have been kind of picked up from some of the other communities that have been talking about similar bylaws, but without any consultation from the public, we just don't know. So there could be a little bit of monkey see, monkey do. Obviously, Calgary brought in a bylaw. Theirs was a little more coherent. Obviously, it still trampled on people's rights, free speech, all that sort of stuff, but it didn't seem to have the glaring errors. Let's maybe talk about that. It's sort of, for folks out there who don't know what we're talking about, some of the language when it clarifies the term fetus, it's as though they didn't want to say baby or human or anything, so they just said a developing unborn mammal. So effectively dropping off an ultrasound of a dolphin at someone's house is a bylaw violation now in Strathmore? That's right. Yeah, $3,000. Send an ultrasound of a bunny, an elephant. If you ever wanted to mail your grandma an announcement of your expecting pregnancy, that would actually be illegal as well. So yeah, the really negligent, vague language. And it's concerning for us that, government officials elected to do their job are failing so poorly that something like this could be misconstrued to dolphins, baby dolphins, like you said. Yeah. Now, normally you might see this sort of thing from the federal government or the provincial government, not to say that that's right, but are now municipalities that usually deal with taking out the garbage and maintaining roads, are they becoming politicized as well? Mm-hmm. Well, I think, as you said, that we've seen kind of the some other communities pass bylaws like this, and unfortunately what we see is that bad laws seem to spread like herpes. This madness has got to stop. And, citizens who maybe aren't concerned about pro-life literature, should be concerned that if they're able to restrict and manage the thoughts of their citizens in this way, well, maybe it's going to start with issues like this, but what's the next issue, right? Is it going to be a flyer for your church event or a pamphlet on a freedom rally. Like, we need to stop this kind of madness now so that this overreach and constitutional violations stops here.
And I mean, like, especially in a town like Strathmore, this is an extremely conservative place, a slam dunk for the Conservatives. I know I was here just not that long ago, maybe even a couple days ago, and several people approached me about this story, not concerned about the literature, but concerned about the ban as I was just walking through Strathmore. Is nowhere safe for discussing pro-life ideas?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm so happy to hear that people who are concerned about their constitutional rights are stepping up. And I really commend that. I think that's what we need to do. And, this is a sensitive topic, but I think it's time that Canada is ready to have a mature conversation about abortion. One of the programs that we run is to take literature in a petition to end pain-capable abortions. We go door to door with images that are not graphic, that just show a beautiful image of the preborn that we're trying to discuss and start a conversation. Because the government, the example we have here is just to restrict it. And we are, a lot of Canadians want a conversation.
Now, the sentiment of sort of hiding even a healthy image of we're not talking about bloody sort of, there's even pro-lifers who are opposed to that sort of stuff, though. I mean, some research does indicate it's quite effective. Your group doesn't use it. Why would they want to not engage in conversations? Why would they not want to look at the science? And then even they're not willing to use part of the sort of confusion here. They're not willing to use the language of saying like a human fetus. They're saying an unborn mammal. Is it because the science, the language sort of defeats their arguments?
Yeah, I wonder the same, because the language you saw in this bylaw, I think, is quite a shocking attempt for the Strathmore Town Council to regulate what their citizens are believing. And I think, like you said, the language to say fetus human, or not human, mammal rather, was, the question of what if you call the preborn human? Is that speaking to the humanity of the preborn? I certainly would say so, and I suspect that's why they use such deceiving, vague language.
Now, how does this affect your work? Can you effectively not? Did you have people going through the community, or did you plan to, and now, in essence, you cannot?
Right. Well, the one project that we have, like I said, that we go door to door with petition to end pain-capable abortion, that would be illegal here in Strathmore. A ban, fine of $3,000. So certainly that campaign would be a problem here in the community. But our organization, the Wilberforce Project, we do politics. And it catches our attention when any government, at any level of government, are so negligent at their job. So, we want to encourage the citizens here in Strathmore to push back and to consider if their town council is so incapable of doing their job, then perhaps it's time to remove them.
Yeah. So I suppose, is just for clarification for folks out there, looking at the law, it's a little bit unclear. Are there sort of ways to work around it? I know in the city of Calgary, for example, it was if you add an opaque envelope, plus you have a return address, plus you have warnings on both sides. Are there sort of like a myriad of loopholes you could theoretically jump through here as well?
Yeah, so there are requirements by this bylaw. However, it's certainly biased, discriminatory to only this issue. We don't see that with PETA or any of the other issues that might want to advocate for the cause that they stand for. So while there are some restrictions, they are unjust and they do violate the Constitution.
Now, something like informed consent for women, showing an image like that, saying and presenting scientific facts, nothing gory, nothing that's not going to upset a child. To see that, is this not sort of like an affront against women's rights to make informed decisions?
That's right, and I think that women should have full information, which currently the abortion industry is failing to even give them adequate information about the risks, the health, the possible consequences. And our campaigns, our information is just starting a conversation. We're saying, and this campaign in particular, that when the preborn can feel pain in the third trimester, that's a good time to stop tearing their limbs off. Why can't we talk about that? And I think it's time.
Now, going back to that sort of the political connotations, to what extent is this like just a fundamental freedom of speech violation? And do you guys have any plans, or do you think that there's anything that can be done on that front?
Right. Well, we are certainly interested in pushing back. Here's the start of it. We're trying to raise awareness about the negligence and competence that we've seen here with this bylaw. But we also encourage people who see this and who want to support our work to go to our website, thewilberforceproject.ca, sign the petition. call the town council, push back, but also consider, making a donation, because this is going to be a battleground that we're going to stand for. We've seen enough of this, and we want to stop these kind of bylaws from further restricting our constitutional freedoms.
And where can folks find you if they're interested in your work?
Yeah, the Wilberforceproject.ca. We have this petition and some others. So yeah, go to our website, check us out, and get involved.
Awesome. Well, that was Stephanie Fennelly, the Executive Director of the Wilberforce Project. Thank you so much for your time. And for everyone at home, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos. We reached out to the town of Strathmore, who provided the following response. The town of Strathmore Council has approved the Community Standards Amending Bylaw number 23-27, regulating the unsolicited distribution of graphic images. On July 19th, Council received a presentation from a resident who expressed concerns over the graphic imagery contained in anti-abortion flyers distributed door to door. This is an emotional subject for many. When you go door to door, you don't know if the homeowner has experienced a loss or if those materials could end up in the hands of a child. Requiring these types of pamphlets to be enclosed in opaque envelopes adds a layer of protection while still upholding the importance of allowing people the freedom to use and express their opinions, Mayor Pat Fuel said. The decision to move forward with amending bylaw aligns with Council's strategic plan for the community wellness and intentional community development. The Community Standards Amending Bylaw number 23-27 received all 3 readings on July 26, 2023. Under the bylaw, any materials that contain the image of a fetus must enclose a non-transparent envelope with a warning label and the return address of the sender. Last time I was in Strathmore, I actually had a number of people approach me about this very story, and they asked that I come back and share it so that people out there are aware of what's going on, even in small, purportedly conservative towns in Alberta. It was very important to get back here, have this conversation, and share this story with you. But as you know, doing this, getting out here, well, it comes with costs. Driving out here, bringing equipment, even the costs associated with editing, producing, and getting these videos out to you. Well, those costs add up, and unlike the mainstream media that takes government handouts, we're entirely dependent on you to tell the other side of the story. And that's why I'm asking you to consider chipping in just a few bucks, whatever you can, at rebelfieldreports.com.